This is Pressers by FedNet, where news conferences from the United States Congress become podcast episodes for your listening on your time. Senate leaders held their weekly news conference outside the Senate chamber on July 15th. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Virginia Senator Tim Kaine went first, focusing on the Iran conflict before Schumer took few questions, including about election security and a possible shutdown in the fall. The following material is protected by copyright.
Okay, we're waiting for Senator Kaine. Before I get into my prepared remarks, I'd like to say that the performance of Jay Clayton in committee today was abysmal, and it makes it much less likely that he will get Democratic votes. Now, let's talk about the war. Trump's supposed deal has collapsed. Our troops are coming under attack. The Strait of Hormuz is a minefield. Gas prices are back up. Democrats voted unanimously against the NDAA yesterday. You saw that, a strong, unanimous vote, because Congress cannot continue business as usual while Trump escalates one of the worst national security blunders in American history. Trump cannot launch a directionless war, defy Congress's bipartisan demands that it ends, refuse to level with the American people about the mission, the cost, or the end game, and then expect Congress to follow quietly. No way. And let me just say another thing. This is not just Trump. All of these things are our Republican colleagues. They are not standing up to him when they know he's wrong, and they are complicit in just about everything that he does. Most Americans expected by now Republicans would stand up. They have not. Well, Democrats are standing up and believe we need a clear strategic plan for the war with Iran, not because we take national security lightly, but because we take it seriously. Trump has refused to provide a clear mission, credible strategy, and accounting of costs. American service members are being placed in greater danger. American families pay more at the pump. We Democrats, a strong national defense. We support our troops. And that's why we're not going along with an unauthorized war that has no strategy. The same Republican refusal to govern responsibly is now putting government funding at risk. Donald Trump is openly threatening a shutdown in September unless Republicans eliminate the filibuster and force it through his radical agenda. He said it himself. Republicans have been trying to say we want a shutdown. We don't. We've been fighting it. But Trump pulled the rug out from under them when Trump said Republicans have to terminate the filibuster or we'll have a shutdown in September. Mr. President, the SAVE Act ain't passing. It ain't passing in the Senate, it ain't passing with Democrats, and it ain't passing in the courts. It's been rejected over and over again. I'd say to Mike Lee, it's not happening. So give up on that and start doing the real work. Well, Trump said the quiet part out loud. He's willing to shut down the government to get his way. Democrats want to fund the government, avoid a shutdown, but that requires bipartisan, serious negotiations, not lopsided partisan spending bills that pour more taxpayer money into Trump's disastrous war while doing nothing to lower costs for working families. Republicans need to abandon their my way or the highway approach and work with Democrats on bipartisan spending bills. If instead Republicans follow Donald Trump towards a shutdown, the responsibility will be theirs. Tim, sorry I couldn't introduce you.
Oh, no. Here, I just popped in right as you started. I think you could hear in the leader's voice when he was talking about the war a lot of emotion, and I got a lot of emotion about it. I came to the Senate in 2013, and I'd been the governor of Virginia with a Virginia Guard that was repeatedly being deployed into Iraq and Afghanistan. And I just had to go to too many funerals and too many homecomings where not all were present and accounted for, and too many wakes. And I just said when I got here, and Chuck, has seen me do this, no matter who the president is, Democrat or Republican, I'm not going to allow war to be waged by this country via shortcuts or end runs around the Constitution. We shouldn't be sending our kids, our best and our brightest, into harm's way without a vote of Congress. And I've taken that same position with Presidents Obama and Biden, President Trump, term one, and now President Trump. We told President Trump before this war started it would be foolish for him to do it. There was no reason for the United States, after 25 years of war in the Middle East, to get dragged back in. But he decided to do it, and no consultation with Congress, no real notification of Congress, certainly no seeking of congressional approval. And if you wage a war without a clear rationale, without a clear plan, without allies, without consultation with Congress, guess what? It's not going to go well, and it's going to be tremendously unpopular with the American public. I think I live in one of the most pro-military states in this country. One of the first 14 casualties, Robert Marzon, a warrant officer, was a Virginian from Spotsylvania County, died within a few months of retiring at age 54. Virginians have paid $1.8 billion at the pump just for more gas than they would have paid had President Trump not started the war. And there's all kinds of other inflation. So whether it's the death of our troops, the injury of our troops, the deaths of innocent civilian school kids who get mistakenly bombed on the opening day of the war, the huge cost to the American taxpayer, the huge cost to American family, it's time for this war to be over. Congress has now done something Congress has never done since the War Powers Resolution has passed. A bipartisan resolution in 2 majority Republican houses have said this war is illegal. Withdraw troops unless you get a congressional authorization. You know what? President Trump can break the law, but he can't change the law. The law is the law. Congress has declared this war is illegal. He's breaking the law by continuing the war. And we need to do everything we can, including in the appropriations and NDA process, to find a path back to a ceasefire that's working, to Straits of Hormuz that were as open as they were on February 27, to gas prices that are back what they were before the president on his own started this foolish war. I want to thank Senator Schumer, the Democratic leader, because, when I came to him and said, hey, look, I not only want to vote, but I'm sort of going to want one every week. And we need to just keep hammering on it. And other great Democratic colleagues, there's sort of 6 of us, Senator Duckworth and Schiff and Murphy and Gallego and I know I'm blanking on somebody. I'm sorry to do that. Van Hollen. We've forced this over and over and over again. We had 1 Republican vote, then we had 2, then we had 3, then we had 4, and eventually got the HCON res passed. But we are operating in a very, very unprecedented thing, because Congress has now definitively rebuked this war, and yet the president's doing it anyway. And that not only puts our troops at physical risk, it puts people at legal risk. And with that, thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry to be brief. Yes.
The majority leader has said that the NDAA is not a battleground. It passed 65 consecutive times on bipartisan votes. It says by voting against it, you're voting against the troops, and you're voting against national security.
No, the real danger to national security is this war that's out of control. It's this war that has alienated our allies. It's this war that has totally diminished American power and ability to defend ourselves in the world.
Leader Schumer, do you have any concern with members of your caucus stumping with Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan, including Senator Bernie Sanders, who's going there this weekend?
Let me say this. First, Donald Trump is in terrible shape, and the Republicans are in Michigan. His tariffs, his war with Canada in an economy that depends on cross-border transactions has made him look terrible. Second, Democrats have always come up with candidates that fit their states. We will do that in Michigan. We will beat the Republican, and we will take back the Senate.
Yes. The president is going to give an address tomorrow night. The White House has not been very clear about what it may be about. It could be about what he describes as election security. How concerned are you about efforts the White House may have to intervene in not only the upcoming midterms, but beyond?
Well, we're very worried about the White House. They know they can't win the election fair and square. They know the American people are against them. They know that the American people in the House and Senate are favoring our candidates. So we don't put it past them to try whatever they can, but we are prepared. We are red teaming what they might do and how we can combat it ahead of time. We have united ourselves, the House, the Senate, other governors, to make sure that we can combat these attempts to steal the election.
Leader Schumer, on Jay Clayton.
Yes.
I'm wondering what you make of your reports CDC recommended this voting for.
Well, I'm going to wait further to hear her at her hearings and the vote.
Leader Schumer,
Thank you,
on Jay
everybody.
Clayton, what would this do to FISA? If Jay Clayton is not confirmed, does that load this up?
Senate Majority Leader John Thune arrived on scene with Republicans moments later. He trained fire on Democrats for stalling the annual defense bill in a procedural vote before taking questions about the midterm election, Senator Mitch McConnell's health, and his skepticism about a third reconciliation package soon to emerge from the House.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a heavy week here in the United States Senate with the tragic and unexpected passing of Senator Lindsey Graham. Lindsey was a great American patriot. He was a champion for the Republican Party, and for many of us, he was a trusted and loyal friend and advisor. And so we mourn his loss. And we welcome his beloved sister Darlene here to the United States Senate. She will take up his duties and responsibilities as a senator for the state of South Carolina. And I say all this in the context of I wish we had Lindsey here because right now we are dealing with an important national security matter, the National Defense Authorization Act, something that Congress has done every year now for the last 65 years. And yesterday, we had what was simply a motion to proceed to get on the bill. Actually, it was a cloture motion to proceed to get on the bill. And the Democrats blocked it, every single one. And that, my friends, I believe is really unfortunate. This is an issue that ought to be bipartisan. It's about the national security interest of this country. And the Democrats seem to be dug in and willing to play politics with America's vital national security interests. This is not about funding for Iran. This is something we do on an annual basis, and we have for the last 65 years in a row. So I am hopeful that at some point the Democrats will come to their senses and realize that national security ought to be a priority for them. It certainly is for us, and we will give them more opportunities in which to change that vote and to express their support for even moving forward and having a debate. By the way, I would add that there were 38 Democrat amendments that were included in the National Defense Authorization Act that we tried to get up on the floor yesterday. So national security is important to this country. Border security is important to this country. The Democrats have a pattern going back now over a year of not wanting to pay air traffic controllers, not wanting to pay border security personnel, and in this particular case, holding hostage the pay increases for our men and women in uniform. That is really unfortunate and unprecedented, and I certainly hope that soon they'll come to their senses.
Tomorrow night, the president is expected to give a primetime address and talk about the elections. Would you encourage him to not say that the 2020 election was stolen?
I don't know what he's going to say. Only thing I can tell you is we are focused on the 2026 election. At least I am, and I think most of my colleagues are.
Leader Thune, are you convinced that Senators Warnock and Ossoff are duly chosen and sworn?
That election was a closed issue back in 2020. The election in 2026 gives us an opportunity to take a run at and to win one of those seats in Georgia. And we're going to do everything we can to do that. And so, as I said before, I'm focused on 2026.
Senator Thune, obviously there's been a lot of questions about Senator McConnell's health, him now being not here for more than a month and not being able to vote. Do you believe that there should be some action taken to deal with members that are out for an extended period of time? Do they need to be more transparent with their health? How should this impact the Senate going forward, particularly because he's been out for so long without a lot of clear questions as to when he might be back?
This isn't the first time that this has happened.
Isn't that a reason to do it, though?
Well, it's happened on both sides of the aisle. Look, Senator McConnell has reported about his health, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have him back here soon. But until that time, we'll defer to him and to his staff to give us updates on how he's doing. I don't know that there's any. I think in the past there have been numerous opportunities. I can think of two immediately on the Democrat side, and one on our side where you had members that were out for extended periods of time. And obviously, people have health issues, and there have been some examples of that in the House of Representatives here lately as well.
Leader Thune, what about the reconciliation bill that they've unveiled over in the House, $95 billion, including $60 billion for the Iran war? How are you guys viewing that process over there, and what about your steps, if any, that you guys are taking toward an Iran war supplement?
I guess I would start by saying that, reconciliation, as you know, is very different in the House than it is in the Senate. So we'll see what they're going to try and mark it up in the committee, and we'll see if they can report it, get it across the floor of the House, and what it all contains. The numbers that you were mentioned that have been put out there in terms of what the funding level would be for defense and other things are things that I'm sure our members are going to want to have a lot of input on. I mean, we just had a meeting, as you know, where these issues are starting to get talked about a lot more, and I think the defense number, the ag number, whether or not it's offset, what are the implications over here with respect to the Byrd rule and the restrictions that we have on how reconciliation is used. Do we have 50 votes for something? I mean, I think those are all valid questions, and those questions will be answered in due time. I've said all along, as you know, that it's an option, but it's not certainly the only option, and it all in the end comes down to whether you have the math, whether you can get 50 votes to pass it in the end, and whether you've got 50 votes to defeat any poison pill amendments that might be offered. And so those are all questions that will have to be answered in due time.
Leader Thune, Senators Mike Lee and Rick Scott are both calling on the Senate to stay in session and bypass any recesses or weekends to get the Save America Act across the finish line. Is that something that you're open to and would support?
Well, if I thought there was a path to getting a positive result or a positive outcome, I'd be willing to do just about anything, because I think we are all here in favor of the Save America Act. The folks that have consistently block voted against it are all the Democrats in the United States Senate. And I think that's unlikely to change. And it's also very unlikely that the Senate Republicans are going to vote to get rid of the legislative filibuster. So we've had 5 votes on it. We have voted on the entire Save America Act. We have voted on photo ID as a separate issue. We have voted on photo ID and registration, or citizenship to register. We've had that amendment. We've had a vote on boys competing in girls sports. We've had 5 now votes on the Save America Act or individual components of it, and none of which got a single Democrat. To me, the issue here is the Democrats, and we ought to be going after them for opposing something that's popular across this country, not just with Republicans, but with Democrats as well.
Mr. Leader, follow-up to Chad's question. Was that a yes that you do believe the senators from Georgia are duly sworn and certified? And then a second question about ICE. Several members of your conference, privately many of them, have reached out to now Secretary Mullen asking him to put a pause on the traffic stops after the deaths we've seen in the last week. That happened, now the president, as is his right, has reversed it. Do you believe that those traffic stops should continue? Are Americans safe right now under ICE?
Well, I think they're safe if they're here legally. ICE has a job to do. ICE agents have a job to do, and so obviously we defer to Secretary Mullen and to his team there about the best way to do that job. But we're very interested in ensuring that this country, that we have safe and secure streets. As to your first question, I think that if you go back, states certify elections, and that's what every state does under our system, and the states certified those elections. So like I said before, I'm not looking back into the past, I'm looking to the future. We have a Senate race in Georgia this year in 2026, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to pick up a seat there. Thank you all.
Thanks for listening. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without expressed written permission from FedNet is prohibited